Fans of the Horus Heresy, thank you very much for joining me for a how-to video to talk about building and reinforcing bases for the Orion Assault Dropship of the Legio Custodes. If you watch my recent video where I did a time-lapse assembly on this, you may have noticed that I spent some time building the base, but I didn't just put it together in a straightforward manner. So if we slide the dropship back a bit, and here's the actual base. Obviously this is quite a big tall base, but what you get in the kit is you get 150mm base and then you get this plastic flight stand. Now what I've noticed with basing forge-walled models, i.e. heavy resin models, is these plastic bases are quite thin, and over time they bend out of shape with all the weight on them because they're hollow underneath. So I've worked out a way of reinforcing these bases to keep them flat and give them more stability and strength for holding these very heavy models like the Orion. And it's quite straightforward really, and the materials involved are very simple. The other reason we're doing this is, you might say, well, Leakycheese, you've already built the base. Well, that's true, but in the kit you get a second flight stand to mount the Orion in a landing hovering position. So I've been able to acquire from a very kind donor another 150mm base. So I'm going to do the same sort of thing that I did on this first base on this one. As you can see, it's hollow under the base, and because it's relatively thin plastic, I mean it's not cheap or overly thin, but for supporting a model of this weight, it isn't really strong enough over time, particularly with the way that plastic bends when left under a load, i.e. a weight load for a period of time. As you can see, this is squidgy, yeah? So there's two issues here. The first thing is when you stick this on, or a tall flight stand, you've got this whole surface that can move, so your model can wobble a lot. The second thing is if you display the model on the stand, over time it will press into and distort the plastic of the base, and ultimately you'll end up with something that didn't look quite as good or is as stable as what you originally had. The design I've worked out for getting around this is to do a combination of pinning and reinforcement. And the basic idea is you put a plastic card support under the base where the weight is going to sit. You attach that firmly, and then you put a pin bent at an angle. Now this is 1mm thick piano wire, and what I do is I cut a groove into the plastic card, put it at an angle, I don't know, maybe that was about an 80-degree angle or 10 degrees from the normal, and drilled it up into the flight stand, and you can probably make out the pin and certainly the internal reflection effects of the pin around the base, but that said, it doesn't really stand out. And then the other thing I did was I stuck this pin in with super glue at the base, but in terms of attaching the flight stand onto the base and actually gluing in, I've used a 2-part epoxy araldite glue. So in this instance I use this stuff, which is a fast-acting glue. You can get this in a number of different setting speeds. Basically the quicker setting ones, you get a quicker bond. However, the slower setting ones, they're stronger. So it depends on how much load you're putting on the part. Now, for the purposes of this, I think this quick setting stuff is fine. I tend to use either the quick setting or the ultra strong, super slow setting stuff. We've got this one, and what we're going to do in this video is do the same on this stand to do the hovering version. So, what we've got for the actual demo. So we've got a 150mm base, we've got the hover stand, which came with a kit, and that's a resin part, it's not plastic. This is 1mm thick styrene plastic card. I've cut this to fit within the central grid, and it just so happens that the inside of this grid is exactly 7 centimeters or 70mm square, so that made cutting this out very easy. And if you've got the same sort of base and you want to do the same thing, it's a 70mm square that you need. We've got those two parts, and then the final material is a piece of 1mm thick piano wire. Now I'm actually a bit short. I've used most of my piano wire, so I managed to find this offcut, which should be just about enough actually, given that this is actually quite a short stand. I used a piece that was probably nearly 10 centimeters long, but that's a much taller, heavier load stand, much more force on the joint. But I think here, this short one, which is probably about, I don't know, maybe about 30mm, that'll do. Probably a bit longer wouldn't hurt either. So those are our materials. Right, what tools have we got? I've got a selection of sanding sticks, and it will become apparent why we need those soon enough. We have a pin vise with a 1mm diameter drill. We have a bradawl spike for marking guide holes for drills. We've got a dusty brush for getting rid of bits and pieces while we're drilling. We've got a needle file, flat underside, curved upper and tapering to a point. 2 micro chisels. These are 2mm diameter. We have a square and a rounded tip. We have a set of hardened wire cutters. We may need these on the piano wire. I don't think we will need it, but if you were doing this work yourself and you were working with piano wire, you would need some hardened cutters like this. And finally, we have a simple set of pliers, and we will need these to put a bend in that piece of wire. Piece of wet and dry sandpaper. So that's all the tools. And then in terms of adhesives, we've got some thick super glue. We've got some super glue activator. We've also got a 2-part epoxy, which I showed you briefly before. And we're going to be using this as well in this demo. A piece of paper just for mixing the glue on, the 2-part epoxy. So you can see I've already been doing some on this. And then finally, you need some sort of spatula to mix the 2-part epoxy. And in this instance, this actually comes with the Arodite glue set. There are loads of different brands of epoxy available. I just use the Arodite because, to be honest, you can mix small quantities and it's pretty cheap, so it serves my purposes well. Okay, let's make a start. So the first thing you would need to do if you were starting from scratch is to cut a piece of plastic card to fit the underside recess. I found that 1mm thick plastic card works on all these Citadel bases. So here's another example of one. This is for my Charon pattern Acquisitor, and I use the same 1mm plastic card on the underside of that as well. I've been redesigning the post on that. We'll talk about that in another video. That's first thing to do is obviously cut that out. I'm not doing that in this video. It doesn't really add anything. That fits this internal grid. However, we've got some relief on the underside in the forms of an ejector pin, a feeding point, and then Games Workshop logo and some sort of production serial number. So first thing I want to do is to remove those and sand them flat. So let's make a start with that. We'll drop the camera down a bit. I'm going to start off by using one of these chisels to do the majority of the work, and then I'll finish it off with some sanding. Right, there we go. So if you don't have any of these chisels, they're extremely useful tools. They cost you can get them for about £5. I think, is it World of Tools I got them from? I'll try find who I bought them from and leave a link in the description. Since I got them, I found them very useful for working on resin. So yeah, definitely one worth considering. And also doing things like this, brilliant. And you can see there how I gouged or pushed out. You can also use them to do this, where you drag like that to remove material. So yeah, they're very versatile, and they're very hard metal, and they've got a very sharp, precise cutting head. So you can use them for all sorts of things. I think for resin modeling, they are certainly, if you're getting past just basic assembly and you want to be able to deal with some of the trickier construction challenges, these are well worth having. While I'm working on this, as is often the case on these videos, I am going to talk about, I've got a chat topic. I suppose, two things to talk about. What is it to talk about? Well, I guess there's two things. There's the 30th edition miniature that's been released by Games Workshop to mark the 30th anniversary of the Warhammer 40,000 game release. That's the first thing I'd like to talk about. And then the second thing is a film that I went and saw a few weeks ago, which is the film Valerian, and the City of 1,000 Planets, which I went and saw a few weeks ago. And I'd like to share a few thoughts about what I thought about that film, having watched it. So it's quite interesting. Right, so let's start and talk about the 30th anniversary Games Workshop miniature. So I think, as Games Workshop generally seem to do, they go with something of the time as a commemoration model, and this time they've gone for it's an intercessor veteran miniature, so it's almost like a new version tactical marine, isn't it? So it's going to be a plastic model, and it will be available as of, I think, the 3rd of next weekend, so the first weekend in September. So yeah, I don't know, what's it like? It's an okay looking model. Clearly, as a 30th edition miniature, it has considerable collectability. As a model, I guess it looks all right. I can't say I was that wowed by it. It didn't impress me in terms of a sculpt as much as either the 25th anniversary Crimson Fist Captain or the Imperial Space Marine 30th anniversary plastic miniature, so the original LE02 Imperial Space Marine model. I can't say it impresses me as much as either of those for mixing a new model with something nostalgic. Perhaps Games Workshop are making a point about the future of the game. Who knows? But yeah, so it's going to be an Intercessor Marine. This guy's got various honours and what have you, and it's one of the new style plastic Intercessor models, so I guess it's a nice miniature. A bit, I don't know, not the most exciting anniversary model, I don't think, but I guess it is what it is. I don't know, will I buy one? Maybe I should buy one to add it to my collection of anniversary Space Marine models, because I've got one of each of the 25th and 30th edition models mint in box, so maybe I'll just buy one to add it to that collection. But yeah, I don't think I'll buy it to actually build and use as a model. Don't think it interests me that much. So yeah, so that is a 30th edition miniature. I guess I feel a little bit disappointed. They could have done something a bit more exciting, but there you go. So I've now scraped away most of the raised material with the chisel. I'm now going to use a sanding stick to finish it off. What is this? This is a flexi file flex pad, and this is a coarse one, so 1500 grit sanding stick. This is quite easy once you get into it, and I mean I've done a few of these now, a few using this technique, but it's actually quite easy once you get your head around it. When I first did it, it was a bit sort of stop and start and working out how best to do it. It's kind of got routine for me doing these now, so yeah. And it's a very effective technique as well. Let's give this a really good sand, because this all needs to be flat, because otherwise the base won't end up being level. So this all needs to be flattened down to make sure the base sits level once it's all put together. So let me start sharing a few thoughts about Valerian. So Valerian is a film by a long-time favourite director, the inimitable Luc Besson. And if you've seen, what's Luc Besson done? He's done all sorts. But you know, the ones that always stick in my mind for Luc Besson is Nikita, the original Nikita film from the was it early 90s? I think it was 90s. There was Nikita, and of course Leon, which was like almost like, it's very similar to Nikita, but reworked with a different sort of character. And then of course he did the film The Fifth Element, which is a very artistic and quite wacky off-the-wall sci-fi film, and it's an interesting one to mention in the context of Valerian, because The Fifth Element is a very similar proposition, or we could probably say Valerian is a very similar proposition to The Fifth Element. They're both based on French graphic novels or comic books. They're both by Luc Besson, and they're both very visual and very visual, hero-driven stories. So yeah, the film almost felt like reworking the idea or what worked for The Fifth Element, but taking it to another story. Now, I have no problem with that. With the never-ending stream and output of Marvel, DC, and other superhero films, it's nice to, you know, using a concept that's worked before, a different sort of genre is fine in my book, and it's nice to see something different for a change. So that's nice now. I mean, that fit before, but now it just fits smooth with the base. And if I clear away this enormous pile of plastic shavings, we can just test it see how well it sits on the ground. Well, at least if it doesn't drop out. Good. What that plastic does is it means there's a solid continuation of material from the base at the top through to the ground, or, well, whatever surface the model is standing on. So yeah, the weight on the post is fully supported. So that's the key thing there. Yeah, so Valerian. Right, what do we know about Valerian? Right, I know absolutely nothing about the comic it's based upon, which I guess for me was just the same as it was with Fifth Element. And in terms of the cast or the characters, I guess the theme of the story is, I guess it's focused on a couple of characters within a elite futuristic space command force, and these guys are, or these guys and girls are like, I suppose, operative agents. And the two operatives are played by Dane DeHaan, who is in the character of the film's namesake, so he is Valerian. Then you also have Cara Delevingne, who plays Laureline, and they are a pair of agents. Now, Valerian is the senior agent, he's Captain Valerian, and Delevingne is his number 2, shall I say. Right, so take a look, pulls out. I'm going to put a load of glue on this now to stick this plate in, so we can be quite liberal, I think. I'll do it nicely. Let's rotate that 90 degrees. There we go, that's a better fit. Didn't quite get the love on that first fitting. Right, so pressing that in. I have to be careful here. I want to use my press this down on my table, but I don't want to get any glue on it. Mrs. Leakycheese will kill me if I do. Well, it wouldn't be the first time, but you can always get killed many times over. That's fine. So that's now stuck on. So we've got a nice strong base. Just give it a quick zap of accelerant, just to seal off any glue, so we don't stick it to anything by accident. Those are the principal characters, I suppose, and those two characters carry all the way through the film. They're the chief protagonists. So we've got a nice strong base there. Let's have just a little pause on this. Right, so now we need to pick up the hefty and impressive Orion. I'm going to take the mounting point and attach it in. That sits like that, and I'm just going to rest it on the base like so. Oh gosh, look at the size on this thing. It's absolutely monstrous, this flyer. The key thing I'm wanting to get here is a good location on the base with the rear access ramp open. Interesting. So in terms of height, that seems fine as a general principle. All that really matters now is the front to back location. Yeah, so it's going to be a bit hard for you to see this. So if I look underneath it, I can actually see that with where the model sits now on the base, the post is actually sat almost central. So that's exactly central. Might mount it just a little bit back from the centre in terms of front and rear overhang of the model. I think that works a bit better. You can see it was about, it's like there. So I probably want to mark this so I don't forget where I'm working to. Probably there actually. Got this little dimple, so I don't want the leading edge to be in the dimple, so it won't be quite strong. So we'll do there. So just mark where the front of that post wants to go. Make that a little bit more obvious. This won't matter, so it will get covered over by very strong glue and we won't see it again. I'm just going to test fit that once more with the actual Orion on the base. Valerian, I went and saw this with the full family, so it was a 12 rated film. So, well, 12A, so in the UK, 12A, my children are 11 and 9, so yeah, we could take them. We went and saw it with kids, me and Mrs. Leakycheese. It was a really good film. I enjoyed it a lot. One of the few films I've seen in a long while that had what I felt was a really interesting and original storyline. I'm not going to spoil it for you, but it did stick out in my mind for having that as a positive characteristic. So that was really good to see that. So I'll pause again. What I'm now going to do is I'm going to drill a hole through this so we can start working on the wire. Now the trick of this is not to put the wire in straight, because you want an angle for extra strength. So this is I'm going to bend this into an L shape, and the angle of that is going to be dictated by the side of the posts. So I need to think though that I need to drill the hole in a little bit I need to get the hole located about the right place for the centre. So here's my little marking notch. If I mark there, I reckon my hole wants to be here. So mark that with a nice affirmative guide hole with the bradawl. And we'll take our drill and we'll just drill that straight through. It's dead easy. Yeah, Valerian. I mean, I didn't read any reviews on it before I went to see it. I'm sticking to my policy of not reading film reviews, both from a point of view of spoilers. I watched the original cinematic trailer and that was all. We didn't go and see it when it was first out. I'm sticking away from reviews because one, well, they spoil things, and two, to be quite honest, a lot of the time, a lot of reviews are just full of a load of rubbish. And I don't think Valerian got pretty good reviews, but I actually from my own personal perspective, I really enjoyed the film and I thought it was excellently made. It was very well acted, some really, really original sci-fi scenes and setups and events and stories. It had this really interesting and intriguing storyline. But yeah, visually it was just wow. It was one of those films which was full of a lot of computer generated scenes and materials. However, it did so in a way that it felt believable, in a way that the Star Wars prequel episodes failed miserably at, but this worked really well at. It reminds me quite a lot of The Fifth Element. You know, that was a film where the CGI worked really well, and the recent Guardians of the Galaxy film, or films, because there's two now, they both work really well. Lots of CGI. Depends how you do it. I enjoyed it. I really did enjoy it. I was surprised how much I enjoyed it, actually. Right, so we'll pause on Valerian. And now let's do the trough for mounting the wiring. So just to go back to our completed example, what we're going to do now is gouge out or chisel out a trough in the plastic card that will act as a recess for the 1mm thick piano wire. Right, so I've orientated the base this way. So this is the front. The way you do this, well, firstly you get the hand behind the chisel, because if you slip with one of these things, you are going into your hand with it. They're extremely sharp and you can put a lot of force behind them. You just work it out like that, so there you go. Dead easy. Yeah, that's plenty of length. So now I'm just going to make this a bit deeper so it will hold the wire. The reason we're doing this is because we don't want the wire to stick out and make the model stand up, because that would defeat the whole object of what we're doing here. Valerian, yeah, it was an absolute visual feast. It really, really was. It was one of those films that really made you go, wow, when you watch it. Really, really good. But the CGI allowed them to do interesting and new things. There was a scene at the start of the film where there was it was a virtual reality bazaar or enormous market, and it had this wonderful scene where they're trying to, well, let's say they're trying to retrieve something, but they have to sort of go into this market in this almost sort of like virtual world. So they go in physically, but they see everything virtually, so they have to wear like a virtual headset. They then had these kind of spoof devices that allowed them to take weapons and equipment into this virtual world without being spotted, which was a really fascinating concept. And also things like when a member of their team hacked one of the creatures that was acting as a guard at the bazaar. That was also really cool as well. So hacked into their brain. Okay, just going to sand that flat. That should do the trick. Right, let's now put the bend in this. Do about halfway. Do it halfway. Yeah, why not? So I'll just mark that with a pen. Just so I know where I'm bending it. The pliers here. Got a nice firm grip on that, and I'm going to bend it. So that's about got 90 degrees, but we want to go further than that. Let's have a look. So you can see how we now got an angle, an acute angle bent there. Very nearly, yeah, that's about right. I might just bend it a touch further, and then I think I'm happy with that. I got to admit, I've not seen a film with either of the two lead actors in before, but I thought they were really good. It's one of those films that had a really traditional sort of bit of love story running through it, which made a change. You don't often see that these days. Not in there something quite... Another thing about this film is, while it was serious and light-hearted at the same time, it didn't take itself too seriously, which I really liked. So there you go, we've now got the wire poking through up top. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to super glue the base, this base section. I'm going to super glue that in place, and then we'll drill the hole in the resin mount, and then we will stick the base on, or we'll stick this resin mount onto the base with the Araldite 2-part epoxy. Might want a bit of activator here. So I like the story. I don't want to give any spoilers away, other than to say it was very clever. I almost thought it was going to be a paradoxical story at the start, but it wasn't. It was very clever. So getting this lined up. When you're lining a pin up like this, if you don't get it 100% straight, if you've got a little bit off angle, you can bend it into position later. But that looks good. So because we want to work a bit quicker, we'll fix that with some activator. A bit more adhesive onto it. I don't want this moving around while I'm fitting getting the resin fit right. You may well decide to do that. Yeah, in terms of not taking itself too seriously, it was a good action. It had a lot of action in, had adventure, suspense, a little bit of suspense, yeah, not too much. You can always tell when there's too much suspense because my daughter Dragon Master gets very... she doesn't like suspense, she says, but she did enjoy the film. Yeah, spot on. Use a bit more activator just to set that second round of adhesive. Superglue activator is one of those funny things. You don't really need it, but you can save yourself a lot of time and hassle by having it. I mean, doing a video like this where I'm building it, can save you a lot of time by using the activator to glue stuff, but it does allow you to sometimes glue things in position that might otherwise be really difficult if you're kind of having to hold it for a long period of time. So yeah, it's very, very useful stuff. All right, so let me check on the table. Yeah, that's a good fit on the flat table. Right, let's have a look at this. We've got the right angle there, so as in the correct angle, not a right angle, because obviously that's maybe about 85 degrees. We're going to drill a hole into here now to take that piece of wire. So this came on a little key, but here you go. This is actually a resin component as opposed to a plastic one. But I've taken that off already and cleaned it up. To be honest, there was hardly any cleanup required. And So it's just ready to do this guide hole. So yeah, Valerian. I'm certainly glad I went and saw it. I don't know why it wasn't received very well review-wise, but I really rate it. I thought it was a great film. Something original and new and different to a lot of a run-of-the-mill movies at the moment. So yeah, very good. I really enjoyed it. There was a great little performance, almost like a cameo. Not quite a cameo, it was a bit more developed than that. The actor, not Matt Damon, before Matt Damon, Ethan Hawke, yes. And he had a really cool role. What was he called? Was he Johnny the Pimp, was it? And he played the role of Jolly the Pimp in a section which also had Rihanna in the role of Bubble, which was let's say an alien entertainer. One of the things that was great about the very concept of the film, where you have this enormous space city with all these different creatures on it, and the very way this city actually grew and formed was fascinating and quite original. I enjoyed that. So it had grown out of the first large human space station, and eventually had just been sent out into the stars. There were some of the sets where they went into deep dark depths of the space station. There were ancient spacecraft components. So things that look not entirely unlike what you might find on the International Space Station today. So that was fun. And there's even a section with something that looked like the Apollo Command and Service Module. Although it wasn't actually the Apollo. They hadn't actually said it was from Apollo, but yeah, that was quite neat. So nearly there with that hole, so drill that a bit deeper. I don't want to talk about the plot in case you haven't seen it on this one, but I would certainly recommend seeing it. It's very well acted. It's not over the top acting. A lot of modern films have got slightly OTT acting in my book. They got it just right for the sort of quirkiness of the film. So I really liked that. I really did appreciate how that had been executed. It was well cast, interesting group of actors. Yeah, and a good story, and a very original good story. So yeah, Valerian, one worth going to see. I don't know what I'm going to see next at the movies. Well, I suppose obviously we are getting ever closer to the new Star Wars film, The Last Jedi. So I've not watched anything to do with that. I've not even watched a trailer yet, so I'm doing a great job actually of avoiding the publicity there. I don't know if I want to watch the trailer. I'm not sure about that. Yeah, suggestions in the comments if anyone knows of which trailer has got the fewest spoilers in. I wonder if Mark Hamill as Luke Skywalker is going to survive this film. It's got a slightly apocryphal title, hasn't it? The Last Jedi. So clearly it is suggesting it's Luke Skywalker. Is this film going to continue a cycle whereby key characters from the original trilogy die off? So Han Solo died off in The Force Awakens. Will Luke Skywalker survive this? Clearly Princess Leia is... well, I don't know what they'll do with the character of Princess Leia. I mean, with the sad, somewhat untimely passing of Carrie Fisher. She won't be able to act in it anymore. I just hope they don't do the ghoulish thing where they try to resurrect a dead film star with dreadful CGI. That was, yeah, I can't stand that. That's one of the many things that annoyed me about Rogue One. There are a lot of things that annoyed me about Rogue One. Well, it was an okay. It was funny thing about Rogue One. It was kind of a good film, but it was a terrible Star Wars movie. Absolutely terrible. When I watched Rogue One, I was kind of like expecting this sort of really war-y Star Wars film, which it wasn't. It was all very well made, but I kind of came away from thinking I didn't enjoy that because they've just neatly identified there what Star Wars films are about. And Star Wars films are about heroes who survive, and very identifiable heroes. And Rogue One didn't have particularly appealing heroes. I mean, when the hero you can identify most with is an Imperial hacked robot, you know, clearly you're lacking some emotional attachment to your characters there. Given they all die off, it's like, meh, that wasn't very, yeah, that didn't feel very exciting. There's another Star Wars film coming out, which is a story about Darth Vader, I've heard, in 2018. That is going to be fascinating. Although, it could be risky. They could do a Prometheus if you dabble with and reveal the mystery of characters or plots. Sometimes you can really kill them by answering mysteries in a way that turns out to be anticlimactical. Or, well, just the very fact you've answered a big mystery means it's no longer a mystery. Making Star Wars films for someone who grew up with the original trilogy, i.e. me, basically it's always going to be fraught with peril. Right, so got a really nice fit there on the resin post. Really nice fit, both in terms of the actual pin and then a nice flat attachment onto the base as well, and that's equally important. I mean, I did a bit of work earlier when I took this off the key just to smooth this post off, so that's good. Right, so the next thing we will do is mix a 2-part epoxy. Now this stuff isn't particularly pleasant, and it's you certainly don't want it on your hands if you can avoid it. I don't know, I think this is one of those things, if you, I don't know if it's, I think it might be a bit of, I don't know if it can cause allergic reactions. I know some people have allergic reactions to things like milliput and other 2-part epoxy putties. So I'm not sure if this stuff is the same. It wouldn't surprise me because they've probably all got similar chemicals, active chemicals that make them up. The thing I always try to remember when I'm handling this is to, if you get the individual component, the individual compounds on your hand before they're mixed, they won't set and they're really greasy and they'll just get into all sorts of stuff. So if you do get any on your hands, you need to wipe it off and then wash your hands in some warm soapy water as quickly as you can, because otherwise you might just end up putting, you know, part A or part B all over your house, and yeah, it's not pleasant stuff. It's not horrendous or anything, I don't think, but you don't want it on your nice sofa or sideboard for sure. All right, I just need a little bit more of this. You can get these where they're in kind of like they're on they're mounted on the syringe almost thing, and I guess they can be quite handy because you don't have to do what I'm doing at the moment, where you faff around getting approximately the same amount of compound, because you squeeze it out, the compounds are extruded, or the different parts are extruded at the same rate. But of course, you know, it's like all things. The problem with, you know, the difference with those is they cost more money, as straightforward as that, whereas these glue tubes are quite cheap, really. 2 blobs, and if I grab the spatula, we just need to mix these together. I mean, the same applies with the glue once you've mixed it. Quite yucky, yucky stuff as well. I mean, obviously once the compounds are mixed, or once the 2 different parts are mixed, you've set an irreversible reaction going. It's a chemical reaction. It's a chemical reaction, so there's no stopping it. But on this rapid glue, it says working time, I think is, there you go, 5 minutes working time. They say hardened after 20 minutes. I mean, full curing is going to take longer, but it is hard after 20 minutes. Now with this rapid stuff, you have to be careful because you've got to remember to clean off your spatula once you've mixed it, because I lost a spatula after I I'd been used to working with the ultra hard stuff before I bought this, and I'd mix the glue, and with the ultra hard it takes 14 hours to set and even longer to cure, so it's very slow. So you've got, once you've mixed the glue, you've got loads of time to work with it. But I forgot that when I did work with this 5-minute stuff first, and I left the spatula in a pile of glue, and it was, well, it then set, and you can't, this stuff is rock solid once set, so that was the end of that spatula. There you go. Well, that's mixed extremely thoroughly, probably more thoroughly than it needs to be. Right, now how I do this bit, the trick is you want to get glue into the hole for the post. As you can see, this stuff is highly viscous, so there's a trick to it. And what you have to do basically is you have to stick a blob of glue on the pin, and then just slide the pin on, and then repeat. And basically by doing that a few times, we can get a lot of glue into the drilled out cavity, the drilled out hole. You don't have to, I mean, you've got to work reasonably quickly with this because, as I say, it's got about a 5-minute working time. I'd actually say from working with this a fair few times now that 5-minute working time is about right. To be honest, you're going to be struggling to do anything with it after 5 minutes. It'll be very stiff by then. You can do clever composite gluing techniques to take advantage of the strength of epoxies, but also the fast acting effect with super glue, because the downside of these glues is they do set fairly slowly. If you're gluing together a walker like a Titan and you're trying to do its legs or its hips, that can be very difficult to do, but I've come up with a neat little trick to use super glue and epoxy. So you do an epoxy core and a super glue capsule that holds it in place initially. When I do the next build review on the actual Orion ship itself, I'll talk about when I use that technique for doing the actual build. But that's a story for another video. Right, so I think we've got loads of glue now in that pinhole. So now we can put a nice amount of adhesive on the foot of the base. Hopefully I've got enough adhesive for this. Now this stuff dries pretty clear, so I'm not that worried if I have a bit too much. And it's better to have a bit more than you need here, because once it's done, it's done. I found, having done this a few times as well, you want a bit extra, a little bit of side splurge is fine, I think, on this. It's probably the way I'll put it. If you do it really precisely and neatly, you might find that you haven't actually got a strong enough attachment point on this smooth plastic surface, because with a plastic surface there's going to be no chemical bond, it's all going to be mechanical. So you need enough glue to get that strong mechanical bond. There we go, so I've got that on. That's a big old blob of glue there. Once this is set, it is not going anywhere. Now what you can do as well with this stuff is, that's quite a neat, I'm quite happy with that. Just need to make sure I got it straight. This is one of these things with these glues, you know, they don't set straight away, but woe betide you if you don't get it right, because it ain't coming off ever. So you can see I've got a nice splurge of glue all around the base of that. So that means it's going to be a really strong attachment point. I can now leave that to harden for a while, and then we can clean it up a bit. Just looking at it, it might not be quite square, quite straight on top, but that doesn't really matter because I can always just sand that to get it to be dead straight on top later. Right, so as I was saying, important thing, see this is starting to stiffen up already. If you just look and just scrape at what's left here, yeah, that's, I can already feel that that is stiffer. So this stuff does, you know, it certainly doesn't mess around the reaction, it is quick. So This is the important bit, to clean off with the spatula. If you've got a reusable spatula, if it's nothing that's reusable, then you just bin it. I find these quite useful really for mixing it. Neat little tool, so I do tend to try preserve them. One of the less nice compounds to be working with when you're modelling, I think it's safe to say. I mean, I wouldn't normally use, I only use the epoxies for really, so just a baby wipe. I'm just going to wipe my hands off with it. I wouldn't normally use epoxies for this sort of, for routine modelling. I only use them when there's a lot of, when you've got mounts or joints that are going to have an awful lot of force on them. You really don't want them to break. And this is one of those occasions. It's also quite neat to do a little demo with the with such a glue, so I don't often use them. Something that you haven't got in your collection of adhesives, and you do stuff like this, then it's certainly worth a look. A bit of time is now going to pass while I wait for that to harden, and then we'll come back to it. Right, this is pretty hard now, so we're going to show what I wanted to do. See how hard that is now. Gosh. Just want to roll it away a bit. Remove a bit of the excess. I think I might have left this a little bit long, but anyway. Oh no, there you go. Yeah, it's alright. Alright, so all I'm trying to do now is just get rid of some of the excess. Blend it in a little bit. Just using the bradawl here to do the trick. Try not to take my finger out either. Other tricks you can do is, once you've done this, you can always run a little bit of super glue around the edge as well, just to really strengthen the bond. If you want to go for absolute maximum strength, there's all these little tricks you can do. Because sometimes the thing with epoxies is, on these waxy plastics like this base is made from, as I say, it's all mechanical, so sometimes they can actually come away, despite although the mechanical bond is very strong, the surface isn't perhaps as rough. A superglue bond can be very strong on this as well. Obviously superglue bonds are rather brittle. Superglue bonds are great until they get stressed to the point of failure, then they fail very quickly. This glue, if you get to the failure point, well, it's then got elasticity. It's got the failure point is a lot hard to get to because it has quite a bit of elasticity when it's set. Also, once it's set, it is much harder than superglue, I think, as well. It is extremely hard when it's set, this stuff. This is why you want to get your cleanup done before it does set, because once it's set, it's really, really hard, even if you're working on it with metal tools. So I'm just using my finger to smooth that off a bit. It's just blended it in a bit and taken the blobby edges away. Sure, that could be done more neatly and gracefully. But all said and done, that's all right. So there you go. That is never going to come away again. That's not fully cured now, but we've got such a strong attachment. I think we can do a test fit with the Orion. I have to remember I've not stuck the Orion hull together yet because I'm going to paint the interior. Oops. So I have to So I've kept it apart so I can actually, it's allowed me to complete the build. There we go, so that's now on it. That's not exactly level, so that's going to need a little bit of work to get it leveled off. It's not too bad actually, but because this post is resin, it's easy to heat it up and just manipulate it into position. But all said and done, actually, that's looking better than I thought originally. I've got that option. I might nose it down a bit, sort of like that, and then that might look quite neat if it's nosed down a bit. But I think, oh gosh, well that's an hour. So yeah, I think we better draw a close there. But there you have it, a demo on how to make a reinforced flying base, both in terms of post strength and supporting the base for holding a heavy flyer. And this is a technique you can use on any model with one of these plastic bases and a flight stand. Yeah, particularly when you're working with forge-drilled models, it's a very useful thing to have in your toolbox. Please let me know your thoughts and questions as always in the comments section, both about the build and the films, Valerian, upcoming Star Wars films. Interesting to hear your thoughts. Other than that, I would just like to say thank you very much for watching. I'll speak to you next time, and goodbye.